Welcome to the Women in Vinyl podcast with Jen DiEugenio, founder of Women in Vinyl, and contributor Robin Raymond. This podcast facilitates conversations with those working in the vinyl record industry to educate, demystify, and diversify the vinyl community.
Episode 30 of the Women in Vinyl podcast. You just heard Decades by Seattle trio Wild Powers off their newest record, What You Wanted. Thanks to Wild Powers and our friend Mandy at Nadine Records for the use of the song. We're joined by our friend, the one and only record maven, Amanda Schutzman. From growing up around records to working in record stores like Needle and Groove and Generation Records, to being the co-organizer of the Vinyl Revolution record show, and her day job being all media supply, she literally does it all. Amanda joined us on our very first podcast episode, so we thought, after passing our 1-year mark, it would be fun to have her back to talk more in depth about the thing she knows the ins and outs of like no other: buying, selling, and grading records. So Amanda, thank you for joining us again.
Oh, so nice to be back.
And so today we're talking about grading, and this came as a requested topic, and so we thought you were going to be the perfect person to talk about it.
Well, yeah.
I like that it was brought up by Sam Heaton from Erie Street.
Erie Street.
She's fantastic.
I love her.
Yeah.
Do. We love her skeleton in the front window as well. Can't remember what his name is, but I love that she's got that as well.
Okay, Jen, shoot. I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off.
So what is grading? If we're going to just start there, what is grading a record?
Grading would be you looking at the condition of the record. It is by opinion, obviously. I am an extremely conservative grader. So we were talking about before we started recording that there's many different ways to grade your records. You could feelable scratches, then there's visible scratches. Sometimes if it's been in a jacket that's just been sitting too long in a weird spot, the inner sleeve will leave marks on there. Usually you can't hear it, and it will have absolutely no playable issues in terms of surface noise or anything like that. But I still take that into account. I swear to God, I always do. So grading, yeah, it's just trying to come up with what your collection looks like in terms of condition.
And so Discogs, who we spoke to Jeffrey Smith the episode before this one, they have a great grading resource on their site, which we'll link in the show notes. But maybe let's go through those, because I know a lot of people like to, say everything is like mint, or maybe everything in their collection is near mint, mint minus. Like,
right.
What are these grades?
It is not mint unless it's sealed, period. Even when Generation Records closed during COVID and we started listing all this stuff on Discogs, yep. Even if like the shrink was coming off from sitting in the bin for too long, it was immediately near mint. Even if it's sealed, it's not mint anymore. Let's be honest. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. It's been sitting. So yeah, mint is always just sealed in perfect condition.
Unloved things can still be mint, Amanda. Unloved things can still be mint. Come on.
But yeah, no, mint would be just completely perfect, never opened. Near mint could be open in the shrink, played maybe once. There's absolutely no marks. It looks completely unplayed. BG Plus is absolutely, it's very good plus. Meaning it's in very, very good condition, but there may be like a hairline or two and it doesn't affect play and stuff like that. VG is a step below that. That would be very good. Mostly if you have like one scratch at all, you're now VG to me, but mostly people would say it's VG plus.
Right.
So is Good Plus also listed on Discogs? Because I'm not looking at it. Or is it just G and then
it's G and G plus, yeah.
Okay. So I guess G plus would be a step below VG. I barely look at things that are G plus or G or P, which is poor. VG plus I'd say is like that's what you should be shooting for if you're buying.
Right.
If you're buying something on Discogs, you can also sort on Discogs by condition. You can look at things that are just selling in the US or just selling, you can also sort by condition that way. So I usually look for things that are VG plus and above when I'm buying.
So what are some of the first steps that you take in evaluating a used collection?
That's a really good question. It really depends on how many pieces there are. I kind of separate like the cheap guys from the more expensive guys. Just off the dome, I can tell like, oh, this is going to be worth more than $5, and I'll put those aside. But if you're selling to a record store most of the time, they're going to give you 1/3 of what it's worth. So it's a $15 record. You're only going to get $5 for it because, the store's got to make money somehow. But usually if it's a bunch of $5 records, I'll put them all in a pile and just kind of count piece by piece.
And is
and
that
add it
like
up that way.
evaluated right from just like the title, or you're like, nah, I know what the going rate for this is going to be, and like we're not going to be able to sell this for more than $10 or $15, so you're just like, oh, Herb Alpert in the Tijuana, Nebraska, great, okay, you go over here.
Yeah, you're getting 50 cents for that.
Yeah, right.
You find Herb Alpert basically everywhere, except for What Now My Love, because I looked for What Now My Love for like 3 years and couldn't find it, and now it's everywhere. But most Herb Alpert, it's $1, $2.
Yeah.
Barbra Streisand, $2.
Are there
Things
certain
that-
things when people come in that you're immediately like, oh, that's not going to be worth our time?
Oh yeah, especially if it's beat. If it's in really bad condition, we don't bother. My dad is way worse than this store. Like way, way worse. I mean, he won't even look at it. If there's like a bend in the jacket, there's a crease there. It's like, you don't play the jacket, man. But he's a nut. He's a nut about condition. And we will, if it's 78s and stuff like that, we don't really take 78s. But if they're really, really cheap records, usually we'll say, there's a thrift store here, or if we know a store that's huge, that has a huge budget section, we'll send you there. But stores don't really have room for records that aren't going to sell. So we are a little weary about what we buy.
How long does it take to kind of go through a collection before you determine whether you're going to
it does matter on, I think, how many pieces. If it's, if someone brings in a box of records and and it's 50 records, it'll take me 20 minutes to go through everything. And even if there are things that I don't know I can go right on Discogs and check it. And then everything else, usually right off the top of my head, I can tell if it's going to be worth more than $10, and I have to compensate the person for that. But if it's all cheap stuff, it takes me like 5 minutes. I go through it, 50 cents to $1 a piece, and that's it.
Yeah. And how do you prepare the records to sell?
Again, if they're cheap records, sometimes we don't clean them. It's almost not worth it. We have a VPI in front. We love the VPI. It's our very best friend. But I'm a hands-on kind of guy. Yeah. So the cleaning kits that you sell, I use those brushes like crazy. And I kind of prefer to do it by hand, which people think is absolutely insane and a waste of their time.
I mean, it's really not. You get up close and personal and you really understand what you got in your hands at that point. So you know what you can sell it for.
Yeah. Ray always used to like to clean them by hand.
We bought a 9,000 piece collection, and we're still cleaning it and still putting it out. And it's been months. So.
And are they going? Like
they're going.
Are people like actually, and you're like, oh, that's from that collection? Is it one of those ones where somebody put their name on?
To be quite honest, I mean, most of this store is classic rock.
Amazing.
And stuff like that. But with this collection, we were actually able to make, like, I think our funk soul and R&B section was like 2 rows, and now it's half the store.
Oh, wow.
We bought so much funk soul and R&B that it really has its own real section now. It's so beautiful.
That's great.
I wouldn't recommend this for everybody, just like the general seller, but is there anything that you can do to increase the price? Like if there's pen on something, like try to remove it or leave sticker, like hype stickers on or things
Oh
like that?
man, you're just asking this is a dream question for me. Here we go. Are you ready? Sticker removal, Goo
Yep.
Gone. You're an
Yep.
idiot if you don't use Goo Gone. It's like
true.
magic. It
Yeah.
truly is. I only use it right where the price sticker is. I use a teeny tiny little amount. You don't need a lot, and it's liquid. You know, it's very much liquid. So you need like the smallest drop of it.
With a beautiful orange smell.
Yes.
Oh God, it's very nice, isn't it? So soothing.
Yeah.
So sticker removal, Goo Gone. What was the next one?
Do you leave like old shrink on or try to remove pen marks?
With pen, there's only so much you could do.
Depending on where it is.
Depending on where it is, right. And if it's a white jacket, magic eraser works pretty amazing for ring wear and stuff like that.
Love magic.
Interesting. Love that.
I think the Rumors is a little off white, right?
Yeah, it's like beige.
It's not really
Yes,
white, and I think
sepia toned. Yeah.
I think I've effed up my fair share of Rumors, remembering that after I apply magic eraser to it. So don't do that. But the Beatles, White Album and Fleetwood Mac self-titled, you can get the ring wear off of that, right away with magic eraser. And don't ever take the shrink off. I actually know a few stores that they're like, oh, it doesn't look as good in the shrink. I'm like, it looks as good as it does now because it's been in the shrink for 40 years, man. You sick animal.
I mean, is there ever a time that you take the shrink off?
Well, yeah. If you're putting it in sleeves, if you're a nut like my dad, he'll put it in a resealable and then he'll put it in a 3 mil poly sleeve every time.
Double
bagging it. Yeah, he's double bagging it.
That's a metaphor for life, kids. It's a metaphor for life.
But I mean, if it's a new record that I know I'm going to keep and I know I'm going to, keep it in good shape for that matter, I will take the shrink off. I did post that wet leg the other day and it had the gold foil on it. And I was like, it's just the shrink is taking away from it. We got to get rid of it. Okay.
Right.
But yeah, a resealable would be great for that. The only reason I don't like resealables in a store is because after a while they get really beat just being flipped through and stuff like that. They rip right away because they're 1 mil, so they're they'll just rip right away.
I mean, and they lose their clarity too, so they start to get a little foggy.
It's funny that you say that because a lot of people like 1 mils because they're clearer than the 3 mils. Like they just look crystal clear, and the other ones are a little cloudy. But 3 mils will last a lot longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't like to use them in manufacturing because they're so brittle, so they'll split really easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really not a fan, but if it's for your personal collection, I'm not against it because you're not flipping through them constantly unless you're one of us.
Right.
So
you mentioned that you got this 9,000 piece collection and had a very small funk soul R&B section at Needle and Groove before that.
Yeah. Now it's a good solid 10 rows.
Yeah. So now that it's expanded, before, because it was primarily a classic rock section, would you price acquisitions for classic rock because it's like a classic rock store, and then you would price other genres accordingly?
The owner, this freaking guy, has a lot of sentimental value with stuff. So I'll notice something on the wall that should be like a $50 record and it's $75 or it's $100. And I was like, listen, I know you like it. That doesn't count. It's not, I'm so sorry.
I love this, so it's more. That's how I would operate in that
and
store
a lot
right
of people,
there.
you do have to worry about condition. You really do. I mean, if you're pricing records, that's the one thing you should be taking everything into account. Not only what does it go for, but what shape is it in.
So, so if you were like Armageddon, right, and you're known to be a metal store, and you get a huge collection in, and it's it's got a bunch of funk and soul in it. If you're putting that in your store because you can sell the metal part of it for normal prices, are you pricing that funk and soul stuff for less to get it in and out, or are you?
It depends on how common the titles are. If they're really good funk, soul, and R&B titles you don't see a lot, no, I'm going to price them, as they should be priced. But if it's a whole bunch of stuff, it's very common and you could really find it anywhere, then I'll probably lower it just a bit, just to make sure it moves, especially if I know, people don't come to me for this kind of stuff. So,
right.
It's a lot of metalheads coming into my store who's buying this funk, soul, and R&B stuff.
Right. Because Ray will sometimes do that. We'll go into a shop like that and he likes metal, but that's not mainly what he's looking for if we go there. And he'll go like
Right.
right to jazz or funk and soul and be like, oh, what can I find in here? Because
Yeah.
sometimes you find some gems because they are like, well, this isn't the target audience. So,
Yeah, and a lot of stores don't know a lot beyond what they're used to listening to and what they're used to selling. So instead of sitting on Discogs for 3 whole days, they kind of know offhand prices and they just kind of throw a low price on it just to see it move, which I think is a good move.
do
Why
people
not?
ever haggle like when you have the stuff on the wall that's maybe priced a little high?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're in
I
New
could
York,
never.
man.
I
That's
could
true.
never.
That's
I
true.
could
Yeah,
never.
yeah. We're always looking for a deal.
Maybe that's the Canadian in me, and I'm just like, oh, okay, that's fine. Here you go. Like,
I get mad sometimes. I mean, I try not to give someone more than 10%
yeah,
discount of stuff on the wall, because if it's a $75 record, it's almost $10 that I'm giving you off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have to stay in business. We're not Target.
Yeah.
You don't want to support the store, man? What's up?
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, independent business, bro.
Yeah, I think with pricier titles, it's harder to do like 20% on something that's $100, you know? It's
Does
$20.
location matter, do you think? I mean, like you said, New Yorkers are haggling. Like, do you think if you were, in Ohio or Georgia or something, does that price fluctuate or is the
Oh
market?
yeah, and I think it absolutely just based on sales tax and all these things. We had gosh, where was she from? The I used to be a buyer at Generation Records in the city. There was a girl who came in from Philly and she had basically the same markups that we would have. It's more of like a 50% markup. So if I bought a reissue for 16, we would add 8 to that. It's just 50%. We just put it out $24.99. The girl after her is from Indiana and she had a 12% markup. And I was like,
Mm.
I'm sorry, that's like $1, dude. What, you making money in Indiana? You guys good?
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, it definitely depends on where you are
Yeah.
in terms of pricing for sure.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I think, that's probably a good tip for Sam. I know she was saying that a lot of people haggle or like go back and forth with her on the price, especially when things have sentimental value.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I mean, there's no budging on new reissues, period. I mean, we'll give 20% off on Record Store Day. We're going to do 20% off all reissues. It's much easier to have a little more wiggle room on used records than it would
Yeah.
be for new stuff. It's a set price. This is what we paid. So
Yeah.
we
Totally.
have to make some money on it.
It's true.
do you price any differently, or should people price any differently if they're going to a record fair versus the shop, or do you typically just pull stuff to bring with you?
How do you decide what goes to a record fair
Yeah.
too? I want to know that.
It's tough. I think a lot of stores do it differently. Now that my dad doesn't have a store anymore, obviously it's all show stock. But the owner here, he's got like a lot of records that are on Discogs that are listed at home. Sometimes he'll unlist them for the day and kind of curate like 6 to 12 boxes and bring that stuff. Some people just have stuff sitting in storage that's already priced, so it's not on the floor and they can just kind of put that stuff together and bring it. A lot of people do pull from their store. I think it just kind of all depends on what kind of stuff you want to bring. Do you want to bring all your best titles? Do you want to bring your cheap titles that aren't moving? So I think it's all very circumstantial.
Yeah.
How did the record show go?
Oh man, we had, I think the show was 10 to 4 and we had 1,000 people.
Wow.
Amazing.
Between 10 and 4 o'clock, which I thought
Yeah.
was insane.
Totally.
So we had like just, I think 55 tables at the show. So now we're going to do it almost double the size, 80 to 100 tables for the next show, bigger space, more room.
That's great.
It was just too packed, and you want people to be able to shop. You don't want them to be looking for an open crate to pop their hand into. You want people to just have a choice.
Right.
So I think, yeah, I mean, the show's going to get bigger and better. And we finally got our Queens location back, which is at a beer garden. Everyone loves that show. We haven't done it since before COVID. So that'll be back in October as well.
That's a friend and sponsor of the show, Vinyl Revolution Record Show. Go to vinylrevolutionrecordshow.com
Thank you.
for all of the
Thanks
information.
for the plug.
Hey, thank you. Thank you guys for being bold and getting it back out there too.
Yeah.
That was one of the the first.
Thank you for your selector tip off, dude, because I can't stop with these bags.
They're amazing.
I just keep buying them. These bags are ridiculously amazing. The
Yeah,
padding
they really
in them
are.
I feel so supported.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
Turntable Lab got some, so that was pretty cool to see that they were carrying them now.
I think it'll be great to have all media supply carry them, because then there's no minimums and stores can try out 2 or 3 or 4 and not have to worry about it at a wholesale, a little above wholesale, obviously, but they would still make money on them. And if they know they sell, then they can get them direct from Selector and get an even better price and carry more at a time. And I think it'd be great.
So let's see
Yeah,
here.
I use my bag every day to transport my record making things.
Yeah.
To
I took
and
this
from.
thing on vacation.
So did I.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, you need a bag? Pfft, no.
Yeah,
You don't,
I
even,
got
you don't
this.
even know, dude.
No,
I got
and
a
you're staying true to your roots too. Yeah, I just packed my shit in a record bag. Got this.
I did. I brought a box.
Yeah.
I brought a Bags Unlimited plastic corrugated box, and I literally put a seatbelt on it like it was a person. And I was like, let's go.
I'm ready.
I liked how you had your Amanda section in there too. That was great.
Yeah, I'm a Dylan. I think
These are
I was
mine.
really afraid that we outgrew the box anyway. We should have just each brought a box.
Yeah.
By the end, I'm like looking for, well, in my trunk, I always have like inserts and sleeves, and also, I don't know why, I just carry these things around with me, but just in case. So we had to go into my trunk and get some extra boxes, but it all worked out.
Okay, so how do you deal with people who are trying to buy and sell with sentimental value? Like, are there certain records that people try to sell, Beatles, that are perceived to be more valuable than they are?
Bing Crosby Christmas. Yeah.
See, that's a great question, only because people will come in with Beatles stuff all the time. They'll be like, I saw this selling on eBay for $300. And I'm like, well, funny story, guy.
As a coaster.
But there's 300 pressings of just this one record. And do you know which one you have? Is it original? Is it, like an 80s reissue? Do you know? Are you aware? Or did you look at the Matrix and all these things? And no one
Stop stealing records from your teenagers, sir.
Yeah.
And trying to sell them. How about that?
Yeah, I think honestly, Discogs is very, very informative. But it also, if you don't know how to use it, you're going to look at it like the highest it ever sold and then go with that price and say, oh, yeah, but it sold sealed, with everything, and it was perfect, and it sold 5 years ago for that amount.
Right.
Now 1 million have sold since then. Like, always look at the median first.
Mm-hmm.
You can also use PopPsych to judge based upon, pressing and condition that's closer to your copy. So I like to go on PopPsych and kind of peek around and say, oh, this one's in the shrink and it has the inserts and it's this and it's very clean. What are they selling it for?
Right.
Because it's not, we don't all have the same stuff. Yours could be more beat than the other. Yours could be better than the other. It's always great to just double check, and please make sure you have the right pressing. Please.
Yeah. And I think eBay is like the Wild West. Like, I would not use eBay.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm honestly afraid of it. And I think just the internet in general, people think they have gold when in reality, it's just kind of very common stuff. And I don't really need your Olivia Newton-John records, dude. I'm so sorry. She looked good in the day. I get it.
Yeah. A lot of stuff that came out like in the 90s is what I'm trying to go back and get now. Yeah. And yeah, some of it I can only get as a single. Like there was that what is it, on Drag Race when they had to all sing back to back to back. I can't think of what they called it anyway.
The En Vogues. Lollapalooza.
Yeah. So the En Vogue, En Vogue. I was like, I need this on vinyl. And so I was like, I will find it. I got the single, and that works for me. So
yeah, I'm the same way with certain things.
I think it was on a pretty good soundtrack, but I can't remember what it was.
That would be the Set It Off soundtrack.
Look at you.
You're welcome. I still have it. Yeah. Still have it.
I used to go to a roller skating rink with my friend. Well, I was not in shape or athletic, and so I would sit there and eat nachos and cheese most of the time while everyone else skated. But I loved, well, not at this time. This is a lie. I hated everything they played in there. Okay. I hated it. And then I got older and I was like, oh, but memories,
Yeah.
you know, and I got really attached to all like these really terrible Nelly singles.
Oh,
And
all
it
of
was
them are
like
genius.
a year, I think, after we opened Needle and Groove, they called and they're like, hey, we're closing and we have mountains of singles
Oh my God.
that we're trying to sell. Are you interested? And I was like, listen, they're not interested, but I'll be there in 15 minutes.
I'll take them all. Thank you.
And I had no money on me. And I took literally, he's like, take what you can carry. And I did. And so a lot of the stuff that I have single wise is really like Christina Aguilera's Genie in a Bottle.
Totally.
And,
That's
but it was
amazing.
all the exact record that I was listening to in 6th grade while my friends skated, which is amazingly sentimental and
I
you can't
love
have
that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like, I feel like that's like the dream garden party that we're gonna have for Jen's eventual wedding reception.
Oh
Where
yeah.
we just bring stacks and stacks and stacks of singles.
I don't even
BYOR.
I don't even
just-
care if I'm invited. I'm crashing that.
You're my
Yeah.
+1. Shut up.
Oh, I
It's-
like it. Okay.
It's happening.
BYOV.
Yeah. We'll just hand them over and, you know, we'll put stickies on everybody so they don't get like completely combobulated. But
We actually have a brewery down the block that does that every Wednesday night. It's BYOV. You bring your own vinyl. No one goes. It's basically just me, but
so that it's
That's
I entertain the bartenders.
Amanda Schutzman residency.
Yes.
Let's brand this appropriately. Thank you.
I do kind of want to be a DJ. Also,
Yeah.
to answer your question from a year ago on the other podcast, because I was thinking about it and I was like, what do I want to do? If I could do anything else in the record industry, what would it be? And I was like, I don't know. I'd love to work at a press. I want to be in quality control. I want to be the hype sticker guy. How do I do that? That's what I want. I want to be in packaging.
You just want to put the
And I want to
stickers on?
check everything. Yeah.
I mean, you can do those at the same time almost.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
All right. I'll check your records. I'll make sure they're perfect. Okay. But let me put those hype stickers on. It's all willy-nilly out here. They're
Yeah.
crooked. They're upside down.
It's true.
I would take my job very seriously. Hire me. Okay.
We have a machine.
What?
Put me in pack. I'll be your machine. Put me in packaging.
You don't want to be anywhere near the shrink wrap machine. That's terrifying. That thing
Ah.
will eat humans.
Will it?
Terrifies me. The shrink wrap
Okay.
machine. is
Robin
My
doesn't
dad had
like
a
it.
shrink wrap machine, but it was very old school, like 80s.
We have
Shrink
we
wrap
have two. Like one of them is like that. That's like it chops it, and we have to
Yes.
use that one when it's like an OB or something because
Huh.
it
Okay.
like has to be placed. But the
Right.
other one
Yes.
they just drop in, and that one is like more modern
See?
times.
I'm so much better than a machine.
Hold that thought. It's time for an Amanda fact.
The desirability of 33 1/3 RPM records were driven largely by their substantially larger duration of playback time, and playback machines improved sound quality. Unfortunately, the high cost of replacing 78 RPM playing gramophones in people's homes kept the 33 from breaking into ubiquitous use more quickly. With the country gripped by the Great Depression at the time, the general public was not even remotely interested, let alone considering in actually buying a new record player. Till after the Second World War, that is, when hi-fi home stereos began filling cabinet-looking sideboard-shaped furniture pieces from coast to coast, and listening to records at both 33 1/3 and 45 RPM became pervasive home activity across the nation. Good times.
You all know by now that Robin and I are on opposite ends of the record organizational spectrum. But one thing we do agree on is how fantastic Keppel Design's record dividers and record blocks are. Beautifully handcrafted by expert craftswomen in San Francisco, Keppel dividers are sleek, sophisticated, customizable, and built to last. No matter how you organize, Keppel are the dividers to use. Get $10 off your first order of $85 or more using code WOMENINVINYL at checkout. www.keppeldesign.com. That's KOEPPEL design.com. And now, back to the episode. So, do you see pricing change when something gets a reissue? And I have an example. When we were at Armageddon, there is the first Queens of the Stone Age. It's like it got that really cool kind of stoner rock looking cover with the girl. She's like basically naked on the front. That thing
Okay.
goes for like $1,200, $2,000 all day.
Mhm.
That's getting a reissue. So do you like when those kinds of things happen, do you see the price of the original go down?
Not by much, to be quite honest with you. I think a lot of people are really like you're just very choosy, and a lot of people want the first press. A lot of the time, it really doesn't matter. I'm a really big Teenage Fan Club fan. I don't know if anyone knows Teenage Fan Club, but they recently got reissued a few years ago, and I think that they were all kind of near like $100 or so, and they've definitely dropped since the reissues came out. I don't think people cared that much. They
Mm-hmm.
just wanted it, and it just was unavailable any other way unless you got that first press. So
Right.
I think yes and no. Especially if the first press has something very special in it. I just bought the Ravenette's Lust, and it had like the insert and the 3D glasses and all this
Cool.
extra stuff in it
That's cool.
that the reissue now does not have. So that'll go for more. I think it just depends on what it originally came with, how good it sounds, all that stuff.
I mean, yeah, because there's some reissues that just are
Yeah,
not.
also reissues, some are just digital, like it was pulled from whatever digital file they have, and like the DOL. A lot of jazz nuts, they don't want DOL pressings. They don't care that it's $14 reissue. They'd rather have the $400 reissue that sounds amazing and it's from the original masters and all that stuff. So yeah, it depends on the actual record, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes that's hard, right? Because like somebody has to take the plunge, you know what I mean? To listen to the record and then put up their 2 cents to
Oh, yeah.
be able to inform the rest of the consumer buying public.
Yeah, I mean, people that are just getting into record collecting now, they're probably not going to worry too much about what version they're buying of a specific reissue, like the Funkadelic reissues. I've heard a lot of complaints about For Men with Beards, the reissues, but I kind of have a few that I don't really dislike. I think they're fine. But when Westbound put out the Funkadelic reissues again, people went nuts because they'd rather have those. So even though they were, $10 higher, you don't hear anyone complain because that's the one they'd rather have.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of that marketing stuff, that's a good point. They'll do like remastered from original whatever.
Right.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
Only if it's, I mean, because there's a reissue that I totally can't get behind, and that's like I think it's the 90s, maybe. I'm not sure exactly when the reissue date was, but it's the Brothers in Arms
Okay.
reissue. And like you listen to the first, like the OG Brothers in Arms, and you can like hear the space. You close your eyes, and you're like, "Oh, sweet baby Mark Knopfler, wow!" And there's like, you're in the room, and you're like, "Oh yeah, this is awesome." And then you listen to the reissue, and it's so compressed.
Yes.
Like you physically feel like you can't breathe because it's like everything's just so on top of you, and that's about as audiophilic as I will ever get.
I think I'm an Elliott Smith guy. I'm a really sad guy. I mean, I cry all the time, so I listen to a lot of Elliott Smith.
That's just post rock.
But From a Basement on a Hill, the most recent reissue of that, it just sounds terrible. I don't like it at all. And I think, it's a case by case basis. You have to see who's pressing it. Well, what label is it on? Where did they get it from? If you're looking for the title itself, and you're exactly, and you're not worried about that, then grab the cheapest one you see for sure. But a lot of people do have preferences, and take everything into account before you buy it.
Well, and how there's, I mean, that might be like kind of a rabbit hole kind of conversation point there, but like how did those kind of points play into pricing, grading and pricing? Like, are you looking at, who mastered this? Where was it pressed? Do I like this pressing? Because if I don't like this pressing, I'm probably going to price it lower.
That is a deep question. Yes. No, I do that. Not everyone does that though.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't expect everyone to do that. I mean, it depends. If I'm pricing reissues, it's super easy for me. Especially if it's used and I know like, oh, well, this sat in the bin for a year and I couldn't get rid of it. Why would I even buy this back? I'm going to price it very low because I don't want it sitting here another year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, absolutely. I always take that into account.
Do you
And what
look
is
at-
the more desirable pressing? You know?
Yeah. Do you look at anybody else's, like, if there's, I mean, there's not a lot that you won't listen to,
No.
but is there?
Give everything a shot.
I know, and that, I mean, that's part of the reason that we're soul sisters for sure. Because
Oh, you're probably a Glassjaw fan though, right?
I do love Glassjaw.
Hate Glassjaw. There you go.
That's
There it
okay.
is. I said it out loud.
That's
I knew
okay.
it would. I knew it would upset you.
No, I'm
Anyway.
not. I'm not mad. I could not be bothered. It's
There-
totally fine.
There are not many things I dislike. I will give everything a shot.
Yes,
Me
but
and my
if-
mom were talking about Cannibal Corpse in the car this morning, and she's just like, I just love Cannibal Corpse so much, and I don't know why it makes me so happy. And I was like, listen, Mom, just be your own man. It's all right. It's fine.
It's definitely the art.
And if you don't remember about Amanda's mom, go listen to our
Yes.
first episode
Yeah,
of her.
Go treat.
But that
treat
should be
yourself.
telling enough.
Treat yourself. But do you price stuff lower when somebody has put their 2 cents on the internet and you're like, I don't want to listen to this, so sure.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, there's certain records.
If it's someone I
that-
trust, if it's a reference
Sure.
that I can trust, yeah.
Right. There's so many records that of the moment that get splashed all over the internet right away that now I'm like, I will never buy that record. Why? Because 700,000 people like have it and I have no interest in, like,
Right.
You know, I'm saying it. Tame Impala, don't care. Said
Oh!
it. Boom. There goes the microphone.
Or it's the opposite, because I was like literally every single person posted that wet leg, and I was like, what
yes,
is
also that.
it? I didn't know what
My
it
dad
was.
hates it. My
I
dad
don't-
hates it. My boyfriend hates it. I've been listening to the singles since they came out a couple months ago, and I'm on board. I really like
Yeah.
it.
Uh-huh.
But
Well, it made me go check it out, because I was like, I don't have an opinion yet because I haven't listened to it in full, but I was like, I need to see what this is because so many people have posted it.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? So
it's so catchy. I'm just
I
really
mean,
into it.
This Chaise Long I'm into, and that was directly from you
Yes.
that I
Okay.
picked that up, and I was like, oh baby. But that was before the record came out, and I'm like, yeah, I will add this to my shameless pop music playlist on the internet, but I don't know that I need the record.
I very rarely am anticipating a new release. For someone who works at a distributor, it sells nothing but new releases. I don't listen to any of them. I think I heard Arctic Monkeys for the first time like 5 years ago.
I think that's what made me check it out, though, because I noticed that about what you post. There isn't a ton of like the hype stuff
It's
that
like
comes out.
Rory Gallagher. It's
Yeah.
it's like things that came out a million years ago that I've been listening to forever. It's the same old Judas Priest or Thin Lizzy or so. If I'm into a new record, you probably should check it out because I'm never into new records.
Yeah.
Going back to our subject at hand, are there any and this is like the buzzword of all time right now, red flags? Let's talk red flags on records. Like acquiring a collection from someone, is a Bill Cosby record a red flag right now, or is that like this is controversial, let's price it real high?
No, it's going in the dollar bin. I feel like most comedy records do. It doesn't even matter if it's a great comedy record. Dick Gregory, Lenny Bruce, all that stuff. It's 5 and under, and there were so many made, and they weren't selling like crazy at the time. You know, they were just consistent sales. We have comedy records in here that are $10, but I think that's probably the top dollar for most comedy records.
And is classical almost always going to the dollar bin?
Yeah. Unless you know a store with like a lot, and I'll usually point you in that direction and say they take a lot more classical than we do. And I really don't give people a lot of money for classical. If it's a box set, that I don't see all that often and I know someone will get excited about it, sure, I'll price it a little higher. But classical is basically worthless to us here.
Well, Robin, before we ask our new question to Amanda, because we had to switch it up, did you have anything else?
I don't think so. I mean, how often are you actually like, well, I mean, maybe this is the wrong room to ask this question in, because you guys are really good at cataloging and organizing your records, where I, as evidenced from previous discussions of today, am a hot chaos garbage fire when it comes to actually doing that. But so when you get a new record for your own collections, are you like beeping the barcode like right away, or like searching right away, or are you like waiting for a bit till you have like a bunch to have a little Discogs?
Unfortunately, my life is so sad, and I don't I don't ever just buy one record. There's no like, if I was buying one record at a time, yeah, you betcha I'm gonna put that on Discogs right away. But most of the time I'm coming back from like a trip or a full 12-hour day of stopping in a million different stores, and I don't want to sit down at 8 o'clock at night and start cataloging my records. I've just talked about records and existed in records the entire day. So that's not happening. I did recently go on like a 3-day trip and hit 10 different stores and came back with 40 records. And there were another 40 records that I haven't put on Discogs yet because it was sitting on my floor and I didn't have room. It's just going to continue the sad story of my life. But usually I'll take one day where I'm off, which is usually every 2 weeks I have a day off. And I'll just catalog everything at once. So now I'm probably 80 records behind, and it'll take me 2 hours or so, and then I'll alphabetize it. So I think it's like twice a month I'll add all my new stuff.
What about you, Jen?
I mean, I'm trying. Like, if I buy something and it arrives in the mail, then I'll try to just do it right then. But we're so behind. Like, we were really motivated to do that that day that I thought there was a fire in our neighborhood, and I freaked out, and I was like, we have to do this now. But it takes so long that I'm like, so yeah. I'm trying to do it now. But then it, like, in the way my mind works for organization, it almost throws me off to like scan it without everything else in that section being complete, because then it's like piecemeal.
A lone record all in its own world.
So
yeah, I don't throw anything in unless it's on Discogs. It does not get filed. It's once it's on Discogs, it gets filed. So it's totally separate.
Right. Here's another question, because ultimately the reason that we all keep these Discog records is kind of for insurance for our collections. So have you guys had that conversation with your like insurance people to be like, okay, so like this is what my collection is currently valued at based on the community?
That's why we are partially why we're doing it, because when we bought our house, we were getting our homeowners insurance, and they were like you get a lump sum. So like if anything were to happen, all of our records would be part of like entertainment. So like if our TV got damaged, that would go in with all of our records, and obviously all of our records are way more expensive. So we need to like catalog them all so that if anything happened, you can take out a separate rider on those.
Your records.
So. I thought of something though when you were asking that question. What is your feeling on people that check Discogs in a store to compare a price? Disrespectful?
Walk away. Please walk away. It's more disrespectful at a record show where you're taking up an entire row of records that someone else could be looking at, and you're just standing at this table looking on Discogs to make sure the price is right. Honestly, the first thing you should do before you check Discogs is go talk to the owner or the person who's working there and just get a feel or a sense for that person and talk to them about the record and see what they say about it. The condition's off, or it's much cleaner than we've ever seen it, or it's got the hype, or whatever it is. Make sure that they have a reason for putting the price on it before you second guess them. Because I don't know, more often than not, the person that's working at the record store is going to know more about that record than you do. And they spend time pricing it, and they spend time cleaning it and looking at it and, you know, seeing the special things in it. So if you realize that this guy's yanking your chain and no, I've seen this 6 other places and it was $50 cheaper, check Discogs, sure. But don't, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't go into a nail salon and tell you like, that's the color you should use, dude. She knows. I don't know what you're saying. They're trained professionals. I think you just treat us as professionals. And I understand things are overpriced in stores. Not saying they're not. But maybe if you spoke to the person at the counter, you get a better sense of why they priced it that way before you immediately go to your phone and check Discogs.
I mean,
Because
I
also
would
those
like
people,
to go find the guy that I bought that copy of My War off of and like punch him in the face though.
that's what I mean. I think on Discogs, you're not dealing with a lot of trained professionals. A lot of these people that are selling are personal collectors. They're not stores.
Yeah,
So
no,
this is all opinion.
This was at a fair.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
And it was like, oh, it's sealed. Da, 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 da. And I was like, oh my God, I never buy sealed records. And that's like one of the reasons.
I mean, it recently happened at a record fair near us where a store owner bought something from someone and like it was priced $300 as an original and it was a bootleg.
Yeah.
And the guy didn't even know. He looked at it one time and said, this is the record and this is what it goes for, and priced it.
Yeah. I bought that at My Work for like $85 because it was sealed. And then I got it. And yeah, there's like the biggest scratch.
If you want to check prices, just take a swift walk to the back and do that. Pretend you're on a phone call or pretend you're answering a text. I mean, just don't make it obvious because a lot of people will get offended. And I think we work really hard to be fair. So I would just talk to the guy at the counter and say, hey, why is this so high?
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes like actually I had an encounter at Vinyl Altar. We were in that shop and he has a ton of Riding Easy, which is like I buy pretty much anything that Dan puts out. And I was on Discogs and I think he thought like he was getting offended that I was on Discogs. And I was like, oh no, I was like, I'm literally checking to see if I have this record or not. Like I'm not checking your pricing. Like I'm looking to see, like, I can't remember if I bought it or not yet. So having those conversations is important.
I think that, I mean, I have your link to your collection in a Google Doc where I can click on the link and it brings it up alphabetically, and then I can check your collection to make sure you don't have. I do that with a lot of people. So everyone that works at this store, and then I can pull up. I can just like fetching Jen's collection on Discogs, and then I sit there and check to make sure you don't have it before I buy it. But I think that wouldn't offend me at all. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of records, and God knows we can't keep track of all of it. So
I mean, and that's exactly why I have Discogs. Like, I feel like there's sometimes that I don't even grade what's in my collection because I'm just looking for some sort of organization because it doesn't exist anywhere else in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
do you guys have notes?
Record?
Yeah. Do you guys have notes on your stuff, like where you bought it or if it's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people don't use the notes, but I use notes for a lot of things. And if I buy something like I really wanted, but it was in crappy shape, I'll always say like, need a replacement. Anything like that, so that I know, like, if I do find it again and it's clean, it'll be in my Discogs like, I've been looking for this. You're right. I can sell my other one.
Or I'm like,
that's a good idea.
This is the third copy I have of this. Whoops.
Yeah. Unless that's the intention, of course.
Rumors for
mine is for me. So.
Rumors.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah, all three of us have that problem.
Oh yeah.
So our revamped question for you is reissue versus used.
Oh man. I mean, used 100 million times used.
Yes.
Not like I don't buy reissues. I get really, really excited about reissues. I really do. But I think it's just they're churning them out and I'm always seeing them. And it's a lot, reissues, stuff I can't afford used. So I get really excited. I'm like, oh crap, this is a $40 copy and it's got this, this, and this, and that's exciting. But I always want the original every single time.
This was fun.
It's always fun.
All right, guys.
Okay,
Sweet.
be good.
Thank you.
Don't work too hard.
All right. Love you guys.
Bye. Love you.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks for joining us on the Women in Vinyl podcast. You can join our ever-growing list of sponsors. Other record labels: Selector, Couple Design, Eargasm, Groove Washer, Glowtronics, New Gen Audio, and Vinyl Revolution Record Show. And thanks for sponsoring the show. Hey, as always, you can join our conversation on Instagram or send us a note at media@womeninvinyl.com. Clock us. Send us info. If you have a question, we got the answer, or we'll find it. We won't lie to you. And check out womeninvinyl.com for past episodes, the store, the job board, and the library of resources. Don't forget to like and subscribe and give us a review on your favorite podcast delivery method. You can also contribute to furthering our mission at patreon.com/womeninvinyl. Hey, guess what? This episode, 45 minutes. You know there was more. You want more? You get more. Go to patreon.com and you can get more. And you'll find all the B-sides, the deep cuts, and the amazing extras, including longer episodes, and contribute to the creation of scholarships and educational opportunities to further the demystification, the infiltration of more women and non-binary identifying humans into the vinyl making space, decreasing those turnaround times every week. Yeah, we love your records. We want you to love them too. womeninvinyl.com.
This episode has been brought to you by Women in Vinyl and Red Spade Records. Thank you for listening. Please remember to subscribe, and you can always contact us directly by visiting www.womeninvinyl.com.